This is WVUA Law Call.
18-wheelers, they can weigh as much as 20 times more than your average car, so you can imagine why an accident involving an 18-wheeler could be pretty scary and pretty dangerous. And that is what we were talking about tonight on WVUA Law Call, 18-wheeler accidents. Also, any other accidents on the road, traffic accidents. If you have a question about that, then just pick up the phone and give us a call. Our number is 205-348-WVUA, 205-348-9882. So go ahead, get those calls in. We are going to take a look at what is coming up in the next few weeks here on WVUA Law Call. On December 7th, the topic is child support. Then on December 14th, meet the VIP. It's a very important person. We just won't tell you who it is yet. Then on December 21st, holiday traffic accidents. So a lot of people on the road, Matt, during the holidays, and it can be scary.
It can be very scary, and unfortunately, a lot of folks, I don't think, realize that. You know, at any given time on the interstate, we're just a few seconds away from a serious injury or death, and it can happen so fast, and you not even realize that it's about to happen.
And this is something that you specialize in, working with 18-wheeler accidents at your law firm.
Well, the firm, I was counting up today. We actually have over 30 cases in the office just now that involve tractor trailers all around the state. From Greene County up to North Alabama to South Alabama. It's what we do. And unfortunately, many of them, because of the serious nature of them, are serious injury or even death. And but tonight we've got someone, because
right.
Actually everyone at the firm does these cases, and Josh recently has really specialized in this area, and he's really good at it.
Well, good. Well, then he is the perfect person to be here tonight and help us with that.
And we brought him from the email center over.
We rescued him from the email center and brought him to the desk, because Bob, who usually sits in your seat, is, I guess, working hard on a case tonight.
Very hard.
Very hard.
He was at the office when we left, actually, which is kind of sad for us.
That's
that
right.
He was still there and we were leaving.
Well, Josh, we're glad you moved over to the big kids table tonight.
Yeah, I got a promotion tonight. Glad to be here.
Very good.
And,
well,
hopefully we can help some callers tonight.
I hope so. And our first caller is calling us from Walker County. That is Jan and Jasper. Jan, are you on the line?
Yes, I am.
Well, thank you so much for calling us tonight. We appreciate it. What is your question for Matt and for Josh?
I just wanted to find out, why is it that always truck drivers and big trucks are portrayed to be big bad monsters, and they're always blamed for the truck wrecks? When I drive a truck, I've been driving for 25 years, and I've drove all over the United States, and I've seen just numerous times cars get in front of you, they slam on their brakes, and then when you hit them, you're going to get sued. And it's automatically the driver's fault.
That's interesting to hear from the truck driver's point of view to begin with.
It is, and Jan, I can sympathize with your situation. I can tell you that at our firm, we do not automatically assume that the truck driver's at fault. We have a team of investigators on staff. We go right out to the scene immediately, take a look at it. We, a lot of times, in most cases, hire experts to tell us what happened. And if you or your company isn't at fault, we don't have any interest in that case, because we really are just looking out to find the truth in these kind of cases.
And Josh, I know from working with you that there have been cases that we've turned down. We've looked at it. We have determined that the truck driver did everything like they were supposed to do, and we didn't accept the case.
That's exactly right. And Jan, I'm sorry some of your colleagues give you a bad rap, but you know, most drivers, I would say, are safe, but they're just what's that old phrase? A rotten apple can spoil the whole barrel, or something like that. I think Bob probably knows that phrase. But you know, we don't automatically assume that you're at fault in every wreck.
All right. Well, next up we have a call coming to us from Gadsden. That is Randall. I know that part of the state because my husband's from Gadsden.
All right.
All right. So Randall, what you got for us tonight? Do we have Randall on the line? Can Randall hear us? I can hear Randall, but I don't think he can hear us. So let's move on, and we'll see if we can get him back on the line. But first of all, Josh and Matt, whoever wants to take this one, how do you know if you are in an accident with an 18-wheeler if you have a case?
Go ahead, Josh.
Well, that's a great question. You know, the first thing that anybody in an auto accident ought to do, whether with an 18-wheeler or not, is to get yourself situated medically. Go see the doctors if you're hurt. Keep a diary of what kind of injuries you're experiencing. And if it's a severe enough injury, we would encourage you to contact a lawyer, because a lot of times these trucking companies are investigating these wrecks before you even get out of the hospital. So if you try to do it by yourself, you're really at a disadvantage. And one of the first things you ought to do is hire a good firm that does these trucking cases and let them help you.
And Terry, one thing that I've noticed is because typically when a wreck like this happens, you either have a serious injury that requires you to go to the hospital, or unfortunately you may even lose your life. Police officers will come out, they'll do their job, they'll interview witnesses. Well, sometimes the only person they're interviewing is the truck driver. The other side is at the hospital or at the morgue, and so there'll be a police report often which just reflects what the driver says, and it'll say your deceased, your family member, your family friend was at fault. And the first thing I'd want the public to realize is that the police reports are not evidence. They also don't dictate whether or not you have a case or you don't have a case. And so because of that, and like Josh mentioned, we would encourage you to seek a lawyer so that they can investigate really whether you have a case or not.
All right, and who is it? Let's say you have had an accident with an 18-wheeler. Who can be held liable? Is it just the driver, or is it trucking company, or both?
Both. Possibly. Sometimes you can have an action just against the driver. A lot of times the company should have investigated that driver a little more fully before they gave him the keys to a very heavy rig. So it can be a combination. It can even be other companies besides the driver and the trucking company.
All right, and I always see when I'm driving, I get behind a truck and I see a sign on there that says, "Don't hang out in the no zone." What is the no zone?
Well, it's an area behind a tractor trailer where you're actually in their blind spot. They cannot see you. Sometimes they have one trailer, sometimes they have two. Believe it or not, there's even companies that have 3 trailers. And if you're in a certain area behind the tractor or the trailer or behind the logs on a log truck that they can't see. So one of the biggest mistakes that I see the public make, because I've done it myself before I started doing this kind of work, is you're behind an 18-wheeler, you want to get around the 18-wheeler, and so you cut over into the other lane. The 18-wheeler didn't see you cut into the other lane. They try to change lanes, and the next thing you know, you're either in the median or you're under the truck. Either way, you're in a position that you don't want to be in.
And what if you do have a wreck and you were in the no zone? Can that mean that you're liable, that it's your fault and you don't have a case? How does that work?
It could be. It's really fact specific, and it's something that a firm would have to take a look at. I can tell you that Alabama has one of the most restrictive laws in that area that you can imagine, because if you are proven to be 1% at fault in Alabama, you can't recover. So this whole notion of lawsuit lottery and jackpot justice is really just not a fair depiction of what goes on, because if you're any at fault, you cannot recover.
And what are some of the most common types of accidents that you all see in your work involving big trucks?
I'll give you an example. Next week I'm going to be in Demopolis for most of the week doing some work in a case. And it's a case where the tractor trailer had 3 sets of brakes that absolutely did not work. The log truck was over 20,000 pounds overloaded. And on top of that, the driver wasn't even qualified to drive because he had told the U.S. government that he was on disability. And so it's often a combination of things. And it's often those things that don't show up on a police report. You have on the police report, he said, she said, but there's so much behind the scene that a law firm needs to look at to determine not actually why this wreck happened, because we're always concerned about this wreck, but believe it or not, our firm is always committed to trying to make the roads a safer place. What can we do to keep these wrecks from happening in the future?
All right, and let's see, we have another call coming to us from Tuscaloosa. That is Richard. Richard, how are you doing tonight?
Pretty good.
Well, good. We're glad you called us. What is your question for Matt and Josh?
I was listening to one of your law call programs here a while back on the same subject matter, and I thought I'd misunderstood the scenario, but I went back, had recorded it, went back and listened. They were talking about 2 roads crossing, two-lane highways crossing, and always stop signs, and 4 different cars pulling up at that intersection at the same moment. Who had the right-of-way, and the scenario was that the person on your left. Well, that threw a red flag up in front of me, but I got to thinking about something. If all 4 drivers pull up there instantaneously, or close enough that no one can tell the